And we're live on a Wednesday. Boop, boop.
Hello,
everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Hi from the same place that we will continue to be at until eternity. How is everyone doing today? We're going to actually just dive right in because today's topic is something special. Not that the rest of the topics are not special, but we could talk about this literally also for eternity.
Yep.
So good morning, everyone. And we are going to talk about one of the lessons that I learned over the last decade, which is that I proudly failed my way to a multi-million-dollar company and to the life and the things and the people and the teammates and the impact that I now have.
Mm-hmm.
And this deserves so much more time than the 24 minutes that we have, because we have to end prompt today because we have another meeting at 10 that we've been waiting anxiously to have
For so long.
for a while, because we're all nerds. And I wanted to make this really clear that this is how I view my success. I view my success as I had a series of failures that allowed me to elevate so much so that we could grow by leaps and bounds because we choose failure.
Yes.
I want to make that real clear. That is the way that I think about it.
Yes.
And that because of those failures, we had an extraordinary year in 2020. And because of those failures, we're now going to have an even better year in 2021.
Yep.
And we see the divide of this mindset very clearly in our community between people who have a fixed mindset, and we'll go through what that is, and a growth mindset, and we'll go through what that is.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And let's just acknowledge before we even hop in, this is a scary conversation. This is a scary conversation for so many people, because I would say the more common rhetoric is that failure is bad, right? The more common rhetoric is that we don't ever want to fail because it implies a loss of status in our brains and to the people around us, whether that is real or not real, that is the way it feels. Yeah. So this is probably a new way of looking at it. And as you're listening to the conversation, circle back to, is my reaction growth mindset oriented or is it fixed?
Yeah.
And go from there.
And it's confronting. This is a confronting conversation, and something that will likely trigger you. And it's also something that is, well, I guess it depends on what kind of mindset you have. I was going to say it's changeable, but I guess that depends. And so what we want to sort of talk about are these two very distinct mindsets, where there is a group of, there's group A. So there's the practitioners and coaches who are in the fixed mindset category. Mm-hmm. And then there is the group of, people who are in the growth mindset category. And each group sees life very, very differently. And so the view that you adopt for yourself really profoundly affects the way that you live your life.
Yes.
It literally determines everything. It determines, how things turn out for you. It determines your level of success. Mm-hmm. It determines the way that you feel about yourself. I'm going to argue to a degree determines your health.
Yep, I agree with that.
Right? And all of that. And so this your own psychology, whether you're of a fixed mindset, and we'll give some examples, or of a growth mindset, and we'll give some examples, absolutely determines how things turn out for you because of the perception that you have, because of the psychological beliefs that you believe.
Yes.
And
let's give an example. Let's what is a fixed mindset? Because I feel like if you haven't had this conversation before, this might be a new concept and it's hard to follow without that definition. Yes.
So first of all, these are terms that were coined by a woman named Carol Dweck. So it's DWECK. So if you're not Carol and then Dweck, if you're not familiar, you can just Google Carol Dweck, fixed or growth mindset. And there's a series of questions that you can ask yourself to determine your mindset. And it is confronting and it is also eye-opening, because if your tendency is to lean towards fixed, then it will answer a lot of questions as to why things are hard for you and why things feel the way that they feel and why you react the way that you react and why you struggle the way that you struggle.
Yes.
And it will be very eye-opening for you. And because I have very much so worked over the years to have a growth mindset, that is why I can proudly say that I failed my way to having a multi-million-dollar a year business.
Yes.
Because that is the growth mindset. And so some examples, I'm just going to go look at my notes because we had some notes. So the examples is believing that so this would be fixed. So believing that your abilities, your outcomes is carved in stone.
Yes.
That limitations, challenges, either internal or external, stop you. That there are things internally, externally that are beyond your control and that they stop you and that there's nothing you can do about it. That is a fixed mindset, which creates urgency in your psychology to prove that correct, to prove that mindset correct. And so it's something that Laura says all the time. We're wired to win. So you're going to win at your limitations or you're going to win at breaking through them. Either way, you're both we're going to all win.
Totally. And a really good example of this, if again, it's hard to self-analyze and say to yourself, am I this, am I that? So here's a really good example of this specific limitation. If you have a problem and you verbalize that problem and somebody comes to you with a solution and your immediate reaction is that won't work because I can't do that because nope, that won't work for me because of specifically XYZW. That is a fixed mindset reaction.
Yep.
Versus, I can see the idea. I'm just trying to figure out how I can make it work for me given XYZW limitation that I'm dealing with here.
Yes.
That's a growth mindset.
Yes. And it is something that can be modified. So there's actually a new book. So I highly recommend. There we go.
There it is.
It's a phenomenal book. And so there's some questions in here that I want to ask. So which mindset do you have? Answer these questions about intelligence. Read each statement and decide whether you mostly agree or disagree with it. Your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much. Do you agree or disagree? You can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. No matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. You can always substantially change how intelligent you are. Right? So those are right? You can always change how intelligent you are. If you believe that that is not true, okay, cool. But like I don't. So who's right and who's wrong? No one. It's not a right or wrong scenario. It's a fixed versus a growth mindset.
Whatever you choose, you're right. And that's the cool thing about these conversations is it's up to you. You're going to be right regardless. So what do you want to be right at?
Yeah. And it's, and I would even say, like, honestly, it's not even about right or wrong. It's really understanding that, right? That our psychology determines how everything turns out for us.
Yes.
And so if you believe that that is true, already you have a growth mindset.
Yep.
Right? Already that you have a growth mindset. And I honestly highly recommend that you get this book because it really does help you to understand, right? That there is two different sets of mindset. So like another example of a fixed mindset would be external limitations. So for example, you enroll in a program and the coaching calls are not at a time that are good for you.
Yeah.
And you are not willing to accommodate. And therefore, you are not going to be successful because the coaching calls are not at an applicable time for you. And you've made that decision. That is a fixed mindset. You are fixed on the outcome. There is no possible other way that you could be successful because the coaching calls are not at a time for you, and therefore you won't be successful. That is a fixed mindset.
Yep.
Right? That is a fixed mindset. And so for me, and the reason that I say that I've failed my way is because having a growth mindset, there is no such thing as actual failure as one would think. So a fixed mindset is, you know, caring about other people's opinions. It's, well, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. This isn't going to work. That is a fixed mindset. All of those things. Where is it failure or is it learning?
Yeah.
Right? Is it failure or is it learning?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say it's information, right? Everything, if you can separate out your personal feelings and what you worry about in terms of what other people might think or what things make you look like or XYZW, every experience, good or bad, that you attempt is information. It's either information on something that worked, which is great. It's also information on something that didn't work, which is also great.
Yeah.
It's information.
Yeah. And so for me, it was always like, well, if I have a goal and I want to get there, you know, and this is sort of how I think about my life in general. I really do think about it as a game. Yeah. And like Super Mario. And I want to get to the next level in the game. And in order for me to get to the next level, I have to jump over things. And sometimes, you know, I'll fall and I have to shoot the things. And sometimes I miss. And so for me, it's a game. It's a quest. And what do we know about quests? They never go perfectly. Oh. They never go perfectly. And so when I realized that in order to get the business and the life that I so desired, in order to have the impact in an industry that I wanted to have, I had to change my opinion of failure. I had to change the way that I thought about failure and reach for failure. And we've talked about that before, right? Yep. And reached for failure and understand that success is merely learning. The more successful you are, the more you have to learn and the more failure you have.
Yep.
Because if we look at it, right? If we look at it the other way and we take it from a fixed mindset perspective, and we say, okay, like, I believe that risk is bad. I believe that failure is bad. I believe that if I'm not perfect, from the get-go, that I'm going to look unprofessional, that because I don't have support, I'm not going to be able to do this, because things aren't exactly as I would like them to be, it's not going to work out for me, which shockingly, and with all due respect, we see a lot of practitioners and coaches who operate like that.
So many.
It's mind-blowing, actually.
So many.
How many people who are in the health industry, again, with all due respect, like genuinely, who are trying to coach transformation, who have a strong fixed mindset.
Yes.
Which is a contradiction, frankly.
Yep.
But anywho, we won't go there. But, when you look at it like that and you take it from that perspective and you come at it with, a fixed mindset, right? Then you actually won't be able to grow.
No.
Because when you only do things that you are certain will provide the result, like when you do something and you only do the thing because you are certain and you can guarantee that it will come out successfully, because you don't want to risk failure, because failure is bad, because there's a limited number of opportunities, there's it's fixed, right? Your outcome is fixed and you can't risk that, then you actually never grow, ever. You can't, there's no learning new things, because the only way that you learn new things is by failure. We don't learn new things really from success, because if you do something over and over again and it's successful, and you have a fixed mindset, you're not actually going to go look at how to improve. You're not going to.
Totally.
Right? You're not going to go look at, how am I going to make this better, because it's fixed. I had success. Great. I'll just do it again. And I will stay status quo, and I will stay mediocre, and I will stay at this level, because that is what fixed is. It's fixed.
Yeah, it's fixed. And it's so interesting. As you're saying this, my mind always goes to, okay, so how do you hack the system? How do you fix this for the people who have this fear of failing and this fear of being able to try something new? And it's almost like you just have to go in and redefine success in terms of what it is for any given action. So if you think about anytime you're doing something you've never done before, regardless of what it is, what if success is doing the thing? Like, what if that's the definition? And so no matter what happens, if you actually just go do the thing, you are successful because you did it. And now you have information. And so now the second time you do the thing, maybe you just define success a little bit differently. Now, maybe you're looking for a result that's just one step up from the result you got the last time, right? And just redefine it, because your definition of success is your own.
I want to just read this before we wrap up, because it's on page 58. It's hard to do that. It's backwards, right? This is the book.
You're good. Yep.
I highly recommend it. This is on page 58, and it says The Low Effort Syndrome. And so she's talking about students, right? So she's a professor. She's a professor. She has her PhD, and she says, our students with the fixed mindset who were facing the hard transition saw it as a threat. So like they had to transition, whatever it was. It threatened to unmask their flaws and turn them from winners into losers. So they had to, it was a challenge, right? It was a challenge. And I think it was learning English. So that I think it was Hong Kong, all of the schooling is in English.
Yep.
And so the students who were international had to come and, they provided English classes, and some took them and some didn't. And the ones that didn't, it was because they didn't want to seem dumb that they didn't know English.
Yep. Totally.
And so it says, in fact, in the fixed mindset, adolescence is one big test. Am I smart or dumb? Am I good looking or ugly? Am I cool or nerdy? Am I a winner or a loser? And in the fixed mindset, a loser is forever.
Oof.
Right? And so, these mindsets are evolved over our growth years, our growing years. And, if your mindset's fixed, then a loser will always be a loser. And so if that's true and you respond with a fixed absolute and you don't consciously do the work to turn that around, that is the result that you will always get. And what will happen is the tension will build in your body and you will burn out because you want to succeed, but you're fighting against your own mindset, not even realizing it. And that is when we hear, I'm trying so hard. And we're like, well, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? No, that's not going to work for me. No, my business is different. My business is different. Oh, okay, cool. We don't even bother anymore. The minute somebody says to us, that won't work for me, my business is different, we're like, cool, what would you like to do then?
Yes.
We don't even bother.
Versus, how can that work for me, given that my business operates this way? Completely different.
Yeah. I'm trying so hard, nothing's working. It's frustrating for me. I'm not sure what to do. Can you please advise? Versus, no. No, it's not going to work because my clientele is different. My this is different. I'm not, that's not in alignment for me. Cool. Yes. Well, what is an alignment for you? I don't know. All right, then. And with all the respect, we can joke about this because we hear it all the time. It's a fixed mindset. It's a fixed mindset. So all the love and light in the world, isn't going to help you if that is how your psychology works. So the good news is there's many strategies that you can use to open your mind and start shifting away from this fixed absolute mindset to a growth one of which is going to start learning. There's another book that Carol Dweck has. I don't even know what it's called, but if you literally just Google fixed or growth, self-inquiry, right? If you do any level of self-inquiry work, that will help you to start open up and change the way that you think so that you come with openness and growth versus constraint and fixed.
Yeah.
And when you can shift that, when you can catch yourself and go, whoa, I'm operating in the fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so cool.
You will see your business start to grow. You will feel the struggle, the tension in your body start to decrease. And that is our greatest hope because the strategies are easy. The strategies of how to grow your business, they're simple. It's this part. This is the difference maker. And we're going to keep talking about it. We've been talking about it for a long time.
Over.
This is the difference maker in business and in life. So let us know if you have any recommendations on books. I think it would be really lovely to start a thread on growth mindset, self-inquiry. What books are you reading? What strategies have helped you? Let's help the industry as a whole go from part fixed to growth.
Yes.
Because then you also can fail your way to a multi-million-dollar business too.
Love it.
Have a good day, everybody.